Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a girl named Cinderella. She toiled day and night for her stepmother and stepsisters, dreaming of a better life. Her stepsisters, spoiled and selfish, had everything they wanted, while Cinderella had nothing but chores. One day, tired of her life of misery, Cinderella wandered into the forest. Little did she know, something magical awaited her. From the shadows, a snake appeared, its scales shimmering like jewels. But this was no ordinary snake. It was a creature of magic. "Do not fear me, child," the snake hissed gently. "I know your heart's desires. I can help you, but you must first trust me." Cinderella hesitated, but she saw kindness in the snake's eyes. "What do I have to lose?" she thought. She agreed to trust the snake. With a flick of its tail, the snake worked its magic. In a swirl of light, Cinderella's rags were transformed into a gown fit for royalty. Cinderella gasped at her reflection. She had never looked so beautiful. But remember, the snake said, not all magic lasts forever. And with a twist of the snake's body, a golden carriage appeared. "This will take you to the palace," the snake hissed. "But be careful. The magic will fade by midnight." Cinderella climbed into the carriage, her heart racing. She could hardly believe what was happening. For the first time, she was off to the royal palace. As the carriage rolled through the village, Cinderella watched in awe. For once, she wasn't the servant girl. Tonight, she was someone special. Soon, the palace came into view, its towers gleaming in the moonlight. Cinderella's heart fluttered with excitement as she saw the other guests arriving. When Cinderella stepped out of the carriage, all eyes turned to her. Even her stepmother and stepsisters, who did not recognize her, stared in envy. As Cinderella entered the grand ballroom, her grace caught the eye of the prince, who watched her from afar. Unable to resist, the prince approached her and bowed. "May I have this dance?" he asked. Cinderella, her heart racing, nodded. Together, they danced across the ballroom floor, their steps light and magical. The other guests watched, mesmerized by their elegance. For the first time in her life, Cinderella felt free. She laughed, twirled, and forgot all about the snake's warning. But as the clock inched closer to midnight, the magic began to fade, though Cinderella didn't notice. The prince, however, couldn't take his eyes off her. From the shadows, the magical snake appeared, watching Cinderella with knowing eyes as the clock continued to tick toward midnight. Suddenly, Cinderella saw the clock. It was almost midnight. Panic filled her as she felt the magic slipping away. She pulled away from the prince, her gown flickering as the magic unraveled. "Wait," the prince called, but Cinderella couldn't stay. Cinderella ran from the ballroom, her gown fading back into rags. In her haste, one of her slippers slipped off, but she didn't dare stop. By the time Cinderella reached the carriage, it had turned back into a pumpkin. The horses vanished, and the magic was gone. With only a single glass slipper in hand, Cinderella walked back through the village, the memory of the magical night fading with each step. The next morning, the prince sent out his guards with a glass slipper, determined to find the girl who had stolen his heart. At Cinderella's house, her stepsisters tried desperately to fit the slipper, but no matter how hard they tried, it was too small. Then, one of the guards noticed Cinderella. "Why don't you try it on?" he asked. Cinderella, hesitant, stepped forward. The slipper fit perfectly. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters looked on in shock as the truth dawned on them. Cinderella returned to the palace, this time as a guest of honor. The prince awaited her, and the palace gleamed in the distance. As Cinderella stood before the crowd, the snake, unseen by all, watched from the shadows. It had kept its promise. As they walked through the garden, Cinderella saw the snake curled in a tree, its eyes twinkling. She smiled, grateful for its help. The snake slithered back into the forest, its task complete. Cinderella watched it go, knowing she would never forget the magic it brought into her life. And so, Cinderella's life changed forever. No longer the servant girl, but a princess with a heart full of gratitude for the magic that brought her here.